All right, good morning again to all of you. Thank you for joining me for this Q&A session. I've talked a lot. I talked for nearly an hour. And so this is about you and the questions you have or the comments that you have. I can tell you that I know some things, but I don't know every single thing. So if I don't know something, I will certainly let you know, but I'll do my best. So we're starting a little bit late, so I'm not sure when we're going to be stopped. So I'm just going to begin by asking whether someone would like to start with any question or a comment, an observation. The floor is open. This is your time. Yes. Your name, please?
My name is Juan.
Juan? Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious about how you said you were born or raised on the border.
Yes.
Could you talk about your experience?
Sure, yeah. Juan is asking about how I was raised along the U.S.-Mexico border and to talk a little bit more about that experience. So Laredo, Texas is right on the Rio Grande River. So you've got Laredo, Texas on one side, you cross the Rio Grande, and you're in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, okay? So that is an interesting experience because when you're working with two cultures all at once, you learn how to speak English and Spanish. You learn to eat enchiladas and hamburgers. You know, you take the best of both cultures. You listen to American music, you listen to Mexican music. And I remember when we were kids, we would go to Nuevo Laredo often because the groceries were cheaper in Mexico than they were in the United States. So my mother would go and buy her meats over there and avocados. You had to cut them and take the seed out and bring them across. Sugar, coffee, corn, those kinds of things. And in actuality, that is still happening today. It's still happening today. There's a lot of, crossing back and forth. A lot of people go to Mexico now, across the river, al otro lado, as we would say it, for medical purposes. For dental work is a lot cheaper. You heard about the tourists that crossed into Matamoros for plastic surgery. That's not something we did in my day, although maybe I could have benefited from it. But yeah, there's still a lot. The liquor was cheaper over there. So in my 20s, I would go buy bottles of tequila and stuff like that, and bring it across because it was a lot cheaper to buy it in Mexico. So Laredo is a very isolated city. The closest city to the north is San Antonio, where I live now, and that's close to 200 miles away. So we didn't know what life in the big city was like. If we traveled to San Antonio, we thought, oh my God, we're going to a big city. We were scared. Houston, oh my God, that was even worse. That was even farther away. And so when I decided to leave Laredo to earn a bachelor's degree at the University of Houston, my parents were like, oh my God, they didn't want me to go. They were afraid. But I left anyway and became a teacher. I was an 8th grade teacher in the 70s. How many of you teach elementary school here? Middle, preschool? Okay. How about middle school? High school? Okay. College? No college teachers. One over there. Okay. So I'm not sure, Juan, that's what you wanted to hear or whether you had something else in mind?
No, we just want to know about yours.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Other question, observation? Yes, sir. Your name? Ricardo.
So, other than that teacher who made that comment towards you that said because you got that F, you wouldn't become a teacher.
Yeah.
Would you say that your experience in that border town did you feel more marginalized in that community than you did, say, in San Antonio or in Michigan or other places?
Well, it's interesting, Ricardo, because when you're growing up as a kid and that's all you know, you have no comparison. So yeah, I didn't feel marginalized. I thought everybody was like that. I thought everybody was growing up the same way that we were growing up. It wasn't until later on, when I became a teenager and I was reading about, New York and other places that I began to sense, wow, you know, those must be really different. But we were scared to get out of Laredo because there we were so sheltered, you know, everybody kind of looking out for each other. And so I was not sure about how to handle other places because that wasn't part of my experience. But one of the things that I did do, and my mother would always say, Laura siempre vives experimentando, you know, because I was always trying out new things, is that I just later on moved a lot. I mean, I've lived, let me see the cities I've lived in. I lived in Houston, San Antonio, North Carolina, South Carolina, Michigan, Iowa, California, Arizona. I've lived in all of those places. And I've loved meeting new people. Everywhere I've been, I've met wonderful, wonderful people. Did I mention Iowa? That's another one. I never thought I'd live in Iowa, but I worked at Iowa State University, where I met phenomenal people. Everywhere there's good people.
What's the reason why you moved so much?
Job. As a university, I moved to different jobs. My mother, well, some people in my family told me they thought I couldn't get a job, and that's why, or I was being fired, and actually I was being promoted. I was getting a better situation. But in families, they think that you get a job and you stay in that job forever. And that was my dad, you know. Why are you moving? You have a great job. I was like, no, I have a better job. I have another opportunity. And so that was my thinking, you know. I just wanted to explore and experience new things. Yes.
We have a question from one of our online students.
Yes. Hi, online folks. Hola, hola, hola. Glad you're with us.
So I'll just read out what Cassandra said. She said, I have had retired teachers tell me that their one piece of advice is to not become friends with the students and to make it very clear that those are not my intentions. This advice always feels wrong to me, but what is your opinion on this?
That is an entrenched narrative in education. When I talk about forming validating relationships with students, I'm not talking about disrespectful relationships with students. I'm talking about respectful relationships where students feel cared for. They know that we have their backs and we're going to be there to support them. Students respond very, very well to that kind of approach. I'm not talking about going out to the bar with them. You know, I'm not talking about, you know, going to the movies with them, nothing like that. I'm talking about a respectful, collegial, kind of like a mentoring, coaching relationship. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Yes.
So, my field is early childhood education.
And your name?
Sierra.
Sierra.
So basically K through second grade, the beginning of education. A lot of what you talked about was things that we do already because they're so little and they thrive off of affirmations. And I've gotten really good at doing that. And,
Yes.
it just comes naturally now, which is
Great.
great. So I really related to a lot of the things that you said. And
Okay.
it felt like validation that I was, already picking up the best habits of a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I've been that's been on my heart that I'm trying to grow in is involving families,
Mm-hmm.
Especially in early childhood because the parents are also new to education with their kids. I mean, they're raising these children, they're taking them to school, they're trusting us with them. And I was just wondering, out of all of the different pedagogies and things that you were speaking about, have you ever involved parents in any of that? Have you done any kind of work with families and kind of also invited them to take on some of those activities that you've done before?
Mm-hmm. There is a project that I got involved with a little bit when I was at Arizona State University as a professor. It was called the Mother-Daughter Program. And what it did, and this is at the university, is that they would bring in the mothers to classrooms, involve them in the students' education. I believe that program is still going on today. I don't think we do enough to bring in families. So I think that we need further exploration about how that can be done. What is it that you do with families?
So currently I work for a private school. So
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we don't even have communication with them at the school that I'm at. They have to like go through administration and emails and things like that in order
Right.
to even get hold of me. But I still like, you know, in a lot of my class, like the coursework that I'm doing, I try to like involve that in it. But I felt like some of the things that you did, some of the videos that we saw, like the poetry, would even be great to have parents involved in like, the poetry and even come and recite it in front of their children.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
things like that, that I feel like there was so much that I'm like, wow, this could really be brought into like a family situation. It could even become something that, you know, as a teacher I could take with me from class to class.
Yeah, really good idea. And it brings to mind that oftentimes parents from low-income communities, sometimes they don't feel entitled, you know, to come and ask questions of us.
And they're almost
You know,
like hesitant to like, almost like they're crossing a line by getting involved, as if like once the kid is in our classroom, it's no longer their responsibility, or not their responsibility, but they're just like, well, I'm not going to get involved. This is up to the teacher to do.
Yeah.
But really, like, I mean, like I love the trauma-informed
Pedagogy.
I've read about it already, and I think it's amazing, and I really like it a lot. I think it's really impactful, especially for families, like, because a lot of the trauma is generational, so these kids are getting it from their parents, maybe because they got it from their parents before, whether that's alcoholism, addiction, poverty,
Yes.
all those things. It's really hard to break free from that. So I feel like, you know, if you, yes, like encouraging the students and giving them affirmations is important, and I love it, but I'm like, imagine if like we could do it with the families.
Oh,
together.
yeah, absolutely.
Be like a chain breaker.
Yes, yes, yes. We certainly need, there's literature, research literature on parental involvement. Keep in mind too that many students are living in one-parent households.
Yeah.
So when we talk about parents, in many cases it's not the mother and father. It could be a grandparent or a single family, single parent household.
Yeah, they're busy.
Yes, question in the back?
My question is,
Your name, please?
Lauri,
Laudie.
when you were talking about it choking, going from your community and your family and going into higher education,
Right.
as a teacher, since I'm trying to become a high school teacher, what can I do to help in a situation? To help kids transition from, because I know personally I've had a hard time trying to go from my family and community to the ideas that go along with
Yes.
higher education and that society kind of stuff.
Yeah. As a high school teacher, I think that one of the things that you can do is to spend some time with students to explain these kinds of issues. You know, this is what I've learned. You need to prepare for these kinds of things. But also, one of the things that is happening now, for example, through Gear Up, have you heard of Gear Up, the Gear Up program? That's what it's trying to do, is to prepare these students beginning in middle school when they're just beginning to think about college. And really not only prepare them academically, but include the families, the parents as well. They have conferences where they bring in speakers to talk about issues like this. So I think getting involved with, I don't know if you know Gear Up or have been involved with Gear Up. I mean, they do, you know, some of these things already. But it seems to me that, you know, your principal or superintendent can also work with a college and university to create a bridge program for these students. And so there are programs such as Upward Bound that help these students to acclimate to this new world of college. And those are very successful. In California, they have the Puente Project. I don't know if you've heard about the Puente Project. Puente means bridge. And they've been around since the 80s. They have it in community colleges and they have it in high schools. And those are some of the things that they do as well, is help students, you know, with a bridge to college and explain to parents, you know, what they can expect, explain to students what they can expect, prepare them with writing in particular and mathematics as well. Okay. Other questions, thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
There was another question online.
Yeah, okay.
Claudia asks, you spoke about your experience with like one professor in particular during your speech. What kept you motivated while you were a college student?
Thank you, Gloria, for your question. It was such a long time ago, so what kept me motivated was I wanted to get out of poverty. I saw what was around me, and I thought, if I ever have kids, I don't want them to go through what I'm going through. And I knew that my way out of poverty was a college education. And so I did my best to just keep going with my dream. My dream was to be a teacher, and I fulfilled that dream. And so I think out of everything, that kept me going. Aspirations, which is one of the strengths that students have, remember. And ganas. I wanted this. I wanted this. And I kept going. Mm-hmm.
In particular, what made you want to go into secondary education for teaching middle and high school?
Okay, and your name is?
Seth.
Seth, okay. What made me want to go into secondary education? I wanted to work with students who were a little bit older. You know, that's just my thing, and so that's what I did. And then I worked I taught middle school from, this will date me, from 1970 to 1975. And in 75, I started working with community college students. And then I went on to work with university students. So I did that whole range. So I work mainly with older students. Okay. Yes, and your name is?
My name is Brock.
Brock.
Yes. So you talk about figuring out their drive or that I want this.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice that some students that I interact with just don't have one, no matter how hard I try and pry or figure out what they're into. And I just want to ask, how would you handle someone who doesn't seem to have that drive or finding out where they want to go?
Mm-hmm. So when you ask them, they don't have a goal in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is where counselors can also come in, you know, with some career exploration. And sometimes it takes a while because not everybody's path is the same. Some students are pretty fast with things, others will take a little bit longer, so we need to be patient. But I think that one of the things that can be considered is simply asking students, you know, think about your future. How do you see yourself? You know, where do you see yourself maybe if you think 5, 10 years from now? What would you know, what do you envision for yourself? And just having that, not just with one student, but maybe bringing in a group together so that people float ideas around and this might trigger a thought in this individual and begin to open up. But keep in mind that sometimes it's going to take a little while for some students to get there. They're not going to be as quick. Okay. Yes, ma'am. And your name is? Christina?
In your presentation, you talked about the Blue Journal. I got a glimpse of it. Could you explain a little more of like?
Yeah, I'm sorry that didn't play. It played earlier, but it didn't play then. What Dr. K did is she wanted the students to create stories for children. And so she used the moon as a way that these students could create their own little short story that they could share with their kids. And so she had them do an assignment where they looked at the moon and they wrote a story of what was coming to them as they watched the moon. So she said, you know, the first night they went out, they were all frustrated because there was no moon. You know, I mean, it was just a blank sky. And so every day they would look at the moon and look at the moon, and slowly, slowly it became illuminated. And so they began to write their stories, you know, based on that. She calls that project the Moon Journals. Okay? All right. Yes.
Sierra. So
Yes,
were
Sierra.
they writing about the moon typically, or was that just supposed to inspire some other creative story?
It could be both, you know. They also became inspired for other things as well. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they did become inspired. I mean, whatever you do in your class is not going to look exactly the same, okay, but what I shared with you hopefully inspires you to do something similar to it, but with your own take on it, because you're the one that's in your class and you know what you're going to do and not do. So this is just examples for inspiration. Okay. Other thoughts? Yes, ma'am. You are? Michelle.
I'm also a first generation in my family, Mexican American, and I wanted to ask you about advice on trauma, because my parents were very hard on me going to school. They were like, get the straight A's, get all of that, and I was very hard on myself when I did get an F, or I did get a C, and so it kind of helped shape me in a way as I got older, because even now in college I got an F one time, and I was like, no, my world was ending.
It feels bad to get an F.
And I cried, and my husband's like, why are you crying? I was like, because I got an F. And I consider that a bit of trauma as well.
Yes.
So what piece of advice would you give me where I could speak to those students who have parents that are like that, who are very hard on them, who are very education driven, their parents are like, you have to get good grades, you have to do good, you have to go to college. Like, yes, they want the best for their children, but they don't realize that can also be a bit traumatic to always constantly be telling them you have to be perfect, essentially.
Yeah.
What advice or comment would you say that I could tell those students, besides me telling them I understand how you feel because I went through it?
Right. An F is about failure, right? That's why it starts with an F, because it's about failure. And we put a very negative connotation on failure. When in reality, failure, I've learned in my later years, to me represents an opportunity to learn something. Most things in life involve failure and learning from the failure. Look, when we were, not we, but the scientists were creating the COVID vaccine, that many of us have now taken to help us not to get into the hospital. How many failures do you think they were before they put out that vaccine? A lot of failure, right? Did that stop them? No, because they failed and they said, okay, but this is what's wrong. This is what needs to be fixed. You fix it, you try it again, fails. Whoa, we didn't look at this thing, so let's fix this. That's what failure is. Failure is an opportunity. It's about us learning from the lessons of failure. When we have a relationship that doesn't work out, we say, oh, I failed in that relationship. Well, yeah, but if you look at that and you learn from it, your next relationship is likely going to be better. Because you said, okay, this is the kind of guy I got. I don't want an alcoholic now. I'm not going to go with somebody like that. But if you don't learn from that, you're going to go again and again con el mismo, okay? So you won't learn from that. So failure is there for a reason, okay? And so many people don't look at it that way, but I would urge you to look up the term failure and the spiritual meanings of failure and read up on that and begin to rethink your view of failure, okay? And see it more as an opportunity to learn the lessons that were meant to be given to us at that particular point in life, okay? All right. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, you know Cynthia?
Cynthia.
Yes. And what is your opinion on bilingual education? Because I know it's not here in Nevada yet. So, and based off what our project that we're doing here with Hyper, is that some of the information we know is that in Texas, I know they do it. So, what is your opinion about that? Like, do you feel like it's going other directions, or it's just gonna stay over there?
Well, let me start by saying that I am not a bilingual education expert. That's not the field that I'm in, so I haven't followed it that carefully. You know more about it than I do. Having said that, I believe in learning 2 languages. I believe in learning many languages, actually. I think the more languages you know, the more educated you are. And so I would want to have students to be fluent in at least one other language. Okay. Yes.
I've had a professor once tell me that we shouldn't bring our culture into the classroom. That being said, in one of the schools that I've worked at, more than 85% of the school is bringing Latino,
Mm-hmm.
and 70% of that is being Latino.
Mm-hmm.
Being a Latina teacher, growing up in one of those classrooms, it's really hard not to do
Mm-hmm.
that. Being a Latina teacher, being in that for so long, how do you still keep your culture in the classroom and help those students without being, I guess, crossing the line that some educators would say could cross by bringing culture?
Let me just probe a little bit. Why are they saying that? What do they mean by that?
I think I can.
Okay,
They more focus on the content than
Thank you.
more focus on the content, but what are you doing to bring in culture that they are so against?
An example would be like teachers who are like LGBTQ, like you're not allowed to put a flag up, the colored flag to represent that in the classroom.
Uh-huh.
Even though that's part of their culture, they don't want that to be like showcased.
Okay.
Wearing shirts that say Maestra Latina, like, I mean, showing that you're proud of who you are kind of your own classroom.
Okay. And
I
why?
guess it appears it excludes somebody, even though in Clark County School District, more than half of our students are Latino.
Right. I think culture is very important, and I'm disappointed to hear that narrative is out there in your school. Students respond well when they see themselves represented in the classroom. The Puente project that I talked about in California is all about culture. Students are doing very, very well. So I don't know. I mean, I think in a sense, what comes to my mind is that there's a lot of politics here. You know, I'm thinking about Don't Say Gay in Florida, and, you know, banning of this and banning of that. I mean, we've gotten to the point where I think some of these are just crazy ways of looking at things. It's my own view. But I believe that you need to teach in your own authentic way, in a way that is respectful, in a way that is dignified, in a way that honors your students and that honors who you are as an individual. If people believe there's something wrong with that, hey, you know, that's their thing. But I think that this is really the best way to proceed. And I'm sorry that you're going through that.
I think for now, we might wrap up there. If we have more questions for Dr. Rendón, the speaker, again, later on. So we can have a round of applause.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything. Oh, I'm going somewhere else? Okay.